I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about why you must take your time before you get attached.
Oh, this is so important.
Oh man, you guys have no idea, okay? I've been doing this for a long time. And that is why I'm always educating people about attachment styles and relationships and breakups, of course. But understanding attachment styles is really going to change everything you know about dating and relationships and making something healthy and work. Mm-hmm. Everybody says, do the work, do the work, do the work. Then they don't give you any examples on how to do it, yeah. Right? We put out a lot of those videos, and unfortunately, most of you guys don't want to watch those videos. You're like, no, where's the no contact video?
We have so many, and I wish that those would be our most watched ones, but we also understand that when you're highly anxious, you just go for whatever your mind is telling you need the answer to right at that moment.
Yep. But you have to find the energy to focus on the attachment styles and healing that in order to get centered, because it's either going to help you reattract your ex the right way, or it's going to help you reattract somebody that you're absolutely crazy over. Because the reality is, as soon as you get attached to somebody, your attachment issues are going to come up. Mm-hmm. And if you don't work on them, you're going to find yourself making the same mistakes again and again and again. Like Margaret talked about years ago with the manhole analogy, where you keep walking into you keep falling into the sewer and into the manhole until eventually you realize, oh, got to get around it. And you have those aha moments. That's why I did the creative healing course in the workbook, so you get those moments while you're in no contact, so you don't make that same mistake when you get attached to either your ex again or somebody new.
Right. And of course, we are also here for one-on-one coaching. If you did want to talk about your situation with us, you can book on our website, and both of us are available.
Absolutely. So today, I have an email coaching, okay? Now, this couple is very young. The guy is in his early 20s. Actually, both of them are in their early 20s. And so I like being able to put out videos like this so you can see the mistakes that will happen, especially when you don't have any dating experience, right? When you don't have any dating experience, you have no idea what you're doing. You're just kind of doing the best that you can. But that's also based on what? Your relationship with your caregivers, mostly, and not any kind of understanding of what love could look like as a mature adult. And so you're going to see what happens here is, and this happens probably to you, whether you're going to acknowledge it or not, you get attached to a stranger, okay? And the faster that you're getting attached to strangers and people that you don't know, to me, that is symbolic or reflective of how many attachment issues you have. I've talked about the girl who told me she loved me 4 times on the second date, okay? Wait to the 3rd date like a normal person.
But it's real, when you do see someone attaching so quickly without really assessing for themselves if it's a safe situation, if it's a safe person, if they really do want to invest that much into that relationship, it makes you question why. Why that is, what's their motive, and do they have other supports in their life? Are they expecting this new person to fulfill a bunch of unmet needs that, they don't have other ways of managing or ways of meeting? Yeah,
it's true. And so you have to be aware of these things, and you have to take things slow, because if you don't, you're going to wind up with a broken heart.
And it's really hard, I think, nowadays in our society, too, where we put so much attention and focus on romantic love. You know, everybody wants to find the one and run off into the sunset. So when you're young and
so they can post it on Instagram.
Exactly. That's what they want. You know, it really is like that. Romantic love is really romanticized. And when you're young and you meet someone for the first time and you bond with that person and it's reciprocal, they like you back, that feeling is amazing. It's incredible. It makes you want to pour your whole heart into it. And unfortunately, part of growing up is also learning how to gauge that, learning how to gauge how much you pour into someone, when you're ready to, assessing yourself and understanding more about relationships and the different stages of them.
Okay, yes, all things you have to think about. So this couple, like I said, very early 20s, okay? They met in the spring of this year online. Now they were both living in different states. This is a gay couple, by the way. Just thought I'd say that because some people wonder if we put out gay or lesbian content. We do all the time.
Yeah.
Just if you have a question, you want us to do an email coaching on it, we'll be happy to do that, right? So they were living in different states, and he was eventually going to move to that state where the other guy was living towards the end of this year. Okay, so what happened is while he was visiting, he was on Tinder, set that as his location. That's why they swiped, and then that's why it became long distance. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. So what he goes on to say is that his ex had just gotten dumped from a 4-month relationship. Now that was his first. Only 2 to 3 weeks before they met.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this other guy had his first dating experience just a few months beforehand, or I'm sorry, a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So that ended, met this guy. You could see why that would be overwhelming for somebody, right?
First, queer relationships are very different from first heterosexual relationships in the sense that for queer people, the pool is much smaller. You know, a lot more queer people have that experience of, will I ever find love? Will I ever find somebody who I really connect with? You know, their experiences are completely different. So I just want to note that and acknowledge that in this video.
Sure.
That for this man, you know, his 4-month relationship being his first was a big deal. Some of you might think 4 months, oh, it's whatever, he can get over it in a couple weeks. Now that first relationship and that first queer relationship, it makes an impact.
Not only that, but the social pressures that come, and you know, if you have family and friends that are against a different type of lifestyle, or you're in a religious community that shuns the lifestyle you want to live, those are going to have a big impact too, especially because they're only like 20-ish, you know, so they haven't really individuated from their family and really, you know, gotten to that place in life where like, I know who I am, I like who I am, I'm comfortable with who I am, and if those people don't like me or want me in my life, too bad. That takes real resilience to get there in life. So you're going to see those issues come up in this situation because I kind of remembered it as I was looking over it. All right, so he said that he knew about that breakup, and so he didn't want to put pressure as they hadn't met in person, and he was still fresh out of the breakup. However, he asked me to be his boyfriend in the middle of May after a month of continuous phone calls and FaceTimes. When summer hit, we met in person, and in early July, we had the best weekend of our lives. Now, you can imagine, it's exciting, it's lust, we're having so much fun, we've been having all these phone calls, now we're finally seeing each other, so it's going to feel magical. But transitioning to a long-term attachment is very different, and you have to take time to get to know if that person is going to be right for you.
Right, yeah. And the excitement also paired with traveling and being in different places. You know, there's this...
It's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like so exciting.
I'm excited just reading. Like,
you're not going to be for long.
Oh, no, don't say that, Greg.
I'm warning you. Got to give you a warning.
Okay.
It's going to be rough.
No.
All right, he said, we both stayed with our families over the summer and worked, continuing our relationship long distance. When the school year came, in September, we both moved to the same city. I don't want to say where. With the intention of finding work and having our relationship in person.
Whoa.
How?
Am I understanding that correctly? That they both moved to the same city?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Now, but it was because of, like, I think they were both going to attend the same school or something.
I see. Okay. So this wasn't influenced by the fact
No,
that they were together?
I don't think it was because they were going to do this to be with each other. No. However, we only lasted 2.5 weeks
Oy.
before he pulled away and broke up with me, stating that he felt he didn't/couldn't love me the same way I loved him. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Now remember, they haven't even been dating very long, and as far as I can tell, they only met one weekend, or one long weekend. So they're jumping into love you pretty quickly, and that's why I'm saying you want to take your time getting to know somebody. Okay. He says, after research, I found I'm an anxious attachment and believe he is dismissive avoidant.
I also want to make a comment there. I know very early on there are some signs and things that might give you a hint as to someone's attachment style. You really have to be attached, before you're able to see how a person will respond. It's very different from the beginning of a relationship versus 6 months in, a year in, 5 years in, 10 years in.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind when trying to assess your attachment style and your partner's attachment style too. Here in this case, I do think it is early to tell. And we do have another video on this talking about, are they disinterested or are they avoidant?
Yeah.
So, this is what it's making me think of so far.
Okay. He says the breakup was so sudden and everything had seemed perfect before. And this is what I'm telling you guys. This is why you have to take your time getting to know somebody. One guy says, this is perfect or close to perfect. The other one's like, can't do it, gotta go, bye. How are we on complete extreme opposite ends of the spectrum here? Well, because attachment, that's why. You're going to see. You're going to see exactly what I mean, trust me. He mentioned the ease there was with being long distance versus now. Again, avoidant has a lot more space when it's long distance. I have since moved back to my state to be with my family and continue with the job I had over the summer. We are now long distance again, as he is about a 6.5 hour drive away from me. I desperately want him back and to help him with past traumas. Okay, there's gonna be a lot here, all right? So, he says, in addition to his previous relationship trauma, he is adopted, which is maybe the ultimate relationship trauma, right? Margaret worked in adoption and specialized in adoption for many years. So she taught us a lot about adoption and what happens to people that are adopted. And, there's a lot of misconceptions, like sometimes people think, and I used to even think this, if you're adopted as an infant or as a 1-year-old, that they're going to be a much healthier place than somebody who was adopted at 10 or 11. No, it doesn't work like that.
Because attachment starts in utero. And it's crazy to think about, but it really does happen.
And there is trauma that can happen in utero. Okay? We won't get into that, but Margaret's taught us a lot about that. Scary stuff. All right, so there's more.
And I will also say the experience of an adopted child is very different from a non-adopted child, no matter the age. The questions of, oh, you're adopted, and what other people assume about you as a group because of your experience being adopted.
And there's so many different ways it can play out. Like maybe your parents told you early on. Maybe they hid it from you and lied to you for years. That makes a huge difference in itself right there.
Right. Maybe you look different from your parents. Maybe you're of a different race or of a different culture than your adopted parents. Maybe your biological parents had substance abuse issues or got in trouble with the law. And so there's so many different things that can happen. When we talk about adoption, we really want to be respectful of each adoptee's experience. And nowadays, there's a lot of adoptee content creators that can share their experiences and communities of people who have those shared experiences. So in talking about it, we're just stating that this is an attachment wound, and we want to acknowledge it and be respectful of it in this story.
Absolutely. So there's more. So he's adopted, and he said he was raised in the Mormon church where it is a complete sin to act on homosexual thoughts. So now you can imagine the amount of guilt he felt or shame he felt his entire childhood, feeling like, oh my gosh, I've been adopted by this family, but if I am who I really am or be who I want to be, they're going to abandon me too. Or yeah, I'm sure he'd be afraid of that at least.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. Okay. He attends, I won't say which college, a college that he was in constant fear of being caught. In other words...
Yeah. And it's a very strict college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically you cannot come out as being gay in that college or you'll be, I'm sure, thrown out, right?
Probably.
And his parents are both highly respected in the church and do not 100% support him. They accepted his sexuality when he came out, but don't want him telling family members. Is that really accepting somebody?
Yeah. And even,
more like tolerating.
And even that message there, you know, there's that message of this is shameful. It can't be shared with others. It needs to be hidden, kept secret. So that can do a lot to the psyche.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess he didn't want to tell his little sister, who is devout, about having a boyfriend. He is dealing with a lot and is avoidant. Now, he could be avoidant, but because he's adopted, he may be disorganized, which a lot of people that are adopted have a disorganized attachment style because it's a very serious trauma. Okay, and it really impacts somebody on a deep level, right? He always talked about how he couldn't express himself throughout the relationship, and I always tried to help, but I wasn't enough. We are currently in no contact, and it's been 23 days now. I'm exercising, starting therapy, and being with family to work on myself. Over summer, we discussed marriage.
Wow.
Remember, they'd only seen each other once. Long-term goals, and remember, they're only like 20, okay? So they're very young. And how much we love each other. You see how this is like a fantasy? It's not really about who each other really is, because they don't really know that yet. They're just starting to get to know each other. And this, to me, is more about two people that have attachment trauma so excited for somebody that's going to finally love them.
And I'm imagining, too, with his experience growing up in this really restrictive setting as far as his sexuality goes, having a partner who does completely accept him, having a partner where he can explore more of who he is and be more of himself around. You know what that must be like. It might be exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. You know, so I do think there's a lot here about it being a queer relationship, but in the context of him growing up in this really religious type of household.
Makes it a lot harder.
Yeah.
And adoption. So all of those things compacted. Okay. He says the weekend before the breakup, we took a weekend trip and even looked at engagement rings.
Listen, when we say that commitment steps are too soon, we are not saying it because we don't believe in love. Okay? We are saying it because we want you guys to make the wisest decision possible and gather as much information as you can before signing legal documents.
Yeah, and I believe the research shows that the longer somebody's engaged, the more likely the relationship or the marriage is going to last. Because you really know what you're getting into. You know that person's quirks, their struggles, the areas that they frustrate you, the areas that you can count on them, all of those things, and you say, okay, I know all of that, and I love them, and I want to make it work with them.
Right.
As opposed to two 20-year-olds that know hardly anything about each other looking at engagement rings and saying, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want all long weekends with you.
You really have to be with somebody throughout different season and at least throughout the basic emotions. You have to at least see your partner mad, at least see them scared, at least see them disgusted at some point before deciding, okay, this relationship is what I want. Of course, there's no extensive way of knowing that somebody's going to be 100% a match.
No, of course.
But
taking your time is the key.
Yes, yeah.
He says, I miss him and I want him back dearly. I know we can work on this, but what are my next steps? Well, you don't know that you can work on this. You can work on this, but you don't know that he can work on this because he's got a lot more trauma than you have. He is, 20. He's not far away from that adoption. In other words, like people that were adopted, Margaret used to say they really need to get to about 30 before they really got far enough away from that adoption that their mental health can really evaluate all those things that are making them feel crazy inside. That anxiety and that inability to soothe themselves and stuff like that. So you may be healthy enough to work on this, but he may not. Okay? Our last text conversation, I wished him well and said, I'm cutting contact, which he replied, reach out when you're ready and I'll be here. Look at how quickly he turned that around, right? That was a little sneaky trick.
Yeah.
His birthday is coming up and I want to send him a small birthday message, an inside joke. How do I proceed? How do I proceed? Well, I wouldn't send that birthday message because it just tells him that you're still there. It tells him that he's not, he can break up with you, walk away from you, and you'll still be in his life kind of chasing him. I think this guy is very young and it's probably going to be a while before he's emotionally stable and can give somebody a long-term stable relationship. And that is mostly because of the adoption, but also because growing up in a home where I'm sure he felt ashamed to be himself, felt guilty, ostracized, whatever, by his own family. That's a lot.
And that's going to be a huge step in his life to stand up to them and say, I am who I am. So is he ready? We don't know. It sounds like from the breakup at that point, he was basically saying in less words that he wasn't.
Yeah.
And also given that he's in this college, he might have certain goals that he wants to reach before he is able to be more of himself and, come out maybe even to the rest of his family, come out to the world. So with these types of things, it does take time. We can't force anybody into a situation that they don't want to be in, or they're not willing to be in, or they're not ready to be in.
I think ideally, best case scenario for this particular situation is dating, but casually. Dating with no exclusivity or pressure, because I just don't think this other guy can handle any of that pressure. And I think any of that pressure is going to make him run away. Even if he says, I want it, I don't think you can trust it.
Yeah, and I will say a lot of people who did grow up in religious homes who are queer end up having a lot of internalized homophobia. So I just wanted to bring that up in this situation, that we don't know what his internal battle is when interacting with you, when thinking even about his ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
There's so much more that goes on than we even know or that we can even see.
Yeah, because, the family, they didn't really accept him. They've kind of like tolerated him. And so don't tell your sister, don't tell this person, don't tell that person. That's not really making somebody feel comfortable being who they are, and so that's a lot. And so I just think that in this situation, your best case scenario is just dating and having fun and not putting any pressure. Because I think for the writer of this email, they have a lot of anxiety and there's going to be a lot of pressure and demands on this other guy to meet my needs. I need you, I need to see you, I need to talk to you. And that's just going to make this other guy run.
Right, yeah.
I think this has to be a very kind of pressure-free dynamic of having fun, seeing each other when we can, but not looking at each other for long-term needs. Certainly not talking about engagement and looking at rings and talking about how much you love each other. And if you don't believe me, look at what happened here, right? You just got to take your time to get to know somebody. So.
Yeah, and also to the writer of this email, I would go back and think about what made you so attached to this person. And not in a judgmental way, like, why are you so attached? You shouldn't be attached. But more so, what felt good about this relationship? What did you benefit from it? What felt familiar? What didn't feel familiar? So really go back and self-reflect. I think you can really learn a lot about yourself in this story.
Great. Yeah, those are great questions to think about that Victoria just gave you. Okay, so if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Victoria is available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to talk.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.